Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So we had some technical difficulties and we had to move over to a new link. So we probably lost some people along the way because new link. But good thing we're recording.
Yes.
So we're just, you know what? We're just going to roll with it. And we'll do introductions at the end this time since we did it in the beginning. And the other one was recording anyway. So I'll have to push play for part one and push play for part two. So you were defining PTSD in layman terms.
Yes.
And I apologize. I know it won't be the same, but if you could kind of do that again.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'll start with the acronym PTSD. Stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And I break it down. So the word post meaning after, traumatic meaning a trauma or an event that is traumatic, perceived as traumatic to the person. Stress, of course, is one of the symptoms that comes as a result of exposure to a trauma. And then, of course, disorder is what we're calling it. So post-traumatic stress disorder are symptoms and clinical distress or symptoms that show up after exposure to or directly or indirectly to a threatened or real trauma in someone's life. So I kind of broke it down by vocabulary words, which actually is pretty neat. I've never done that before, but that's actually pretty neat.
Awesome. So I was busy typing and sharing.
Don't worry.
Awesome.
My camera's having a malfunction. It's okay.
Okay, cool. So I'll kind of rehash. There are so many different ways that we can go into this topic. I hope that I think I saw Nathan was on here earlier. I hope he can find our new link.
I saw that too.
Yeah, because I think he joined us last time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So we're just kind of just doing a general topic, and then we'll kind of let it go where it's going to go. So what I was saying in the last video is we couldn't decide which of the two topics that I had presented to talk about because we were thinking about childhood trauma and the PTSD that comes with that. And then we were also thinking about PTSD in veterans. And both came to my mind because I have several men in my family who are in the military or who have now retired from the military. And it just made me think about the transition that they have to go through when they're leaving something that's really very strict. You know, they're given orders to follow rules a certain way, to live their life a certain way, and then they're kind of being thrown out into the world. Going, good luck, Chuck. But and that's not the only instance when I think about that, because I also think about kids who are in the systems, foster care, for instance, where they are, they're in the system for a while, and then I think their 18th birthday, they pretty much go, well, good luck, kid. You're on your own. You're an adult now.
Yep.
And how traumatic an experience that could be. And I don't think people necessarily think of those kind of things as PTSD. So I wanted to kind of talk about more of the unorthodox ways that PTSD shows up, because people don't think about things like that as being related to PTSD, but I think that they're traumatic events.
Exactly. Yeah, we're really looking at trauma very differently now, because one of the things that we're all acutely aware of is the level of community violence and exposure in our communities. So all of that encompasses trauma, exposure to violence directly or indirectly. So sometimes communities may not themselves, a person living in a community may not, him or herself, been a victim of a direct trauma, but having been exposed to violence or trauma day after day after day can take a toll on one's emotional health. And so we can also become kind of vicariously traumatized to other people's trauma. So we do have to think outside the box of trauma. It's no longer just something that we looked at for combat veterans returning to civilian life. It is so much more diverse. So you have to look at women who are victims of rape, human trafficking, child sexual and physical abuse, all levels of abuse, domestic violence. So the nature of trauma is broad, and we have to begin to kind of open up our eyes to look at the impact it's having on our communities. Even those of us who don't live in communities where there's a lot of violence or we haven't been the victim of trauma, you can, even watching too much on social media or the news, just kind of become impacted yourself, being inundated with the level of violence and this perceived helplessness, like what's going on in our world. So even though you may not have a full-blown diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, doesn't mean that you don't get traumatized by an event.
I want to go more into that. You talked about how just watching certain things on social media can eventually form to be a traumatic experience for somebody.
Right.
What does something like that look like? Because I have seen posts from people who they would literally say, I need to take a break from Facebook. But usually the people who say that, they usually associate or label themselves as empath. And so it's hard for them to take on so many things because of that title of being an empath. I am honestly not 100% sure what an empath is.
Me either.
So I'm just going to kind of like, put it out there and be honest. Like I've seen it floating around in the life coach spaces. But I'm still actually not entirely sure what it means. Other than I'm guessing that an empath is a person who's extremely sensitive to what's going on within the world. I think whether that be people, nature, animals, whatever. So, but either way, they're posting it on social media that all of this violence and all of this drama, it's too much for them.
Yeah.
And, they need to kind of take a break. But what would it look like, in instances that you were referencing when there's all this negative media that we're seeing all the time?
Right. There's a mental fatigue and a sense of helplessness that you get just continuing to be exposed to events of trauma, the injustices that we see, the atrocities across the world. If you continue to be exposed to that without a balance of a positive lifestyle, and you just continue to see this the first thing when you wake up in the morning and you're checking your email or you're checking your posts or whatever feeds in the middle of the night, I mean, you can get so engulfed in this stuff that you lose touch with reality. And so we had to be careful. And so when people say, I need to unplug, absolutely, because now your life, your reality is starting to be played out through social media, and we get disconnected from the humanistic part of our life. So that's when people say, it's time for me to unplug, because it's so much negativity. Look, I actually love social media because I do follow people who are more positive than negative. So I only watch a level of news that is probably like current event, but it's not something I kind of watch continuously. So I watch things more kind of for like a documentary than I do street violence or community violence, but I'm very aware that it's there. But the more you expose yourself to it and you don't have a balance of a lifestyle outside of that, you'll get this kind of mental exhaustion and this sense of helplessness, and that the world is all doom and gloom, which we know can then easily spiral someone into a sense of hopelessness and then depression. So it's all about people. Look, people are in charge of their own life. They have to know when enough is enough. Unplug, go outside, get some fresh air, do something physical, and get in touch with some human people who can talk to you about things other than what you're being exposed to.
Exactly. And besides social media, I mean, there's also all these different images that are being presented in mainstream media. I mean, anything from the marketing in the stores that you eventually start picking up subliminal messages behind, even like the cartoons that the kids are watching. You know, they're little. I was just watching something with my okay, I wasn't watching it, but I did hear it. I just heard the theme song to one of these kid shows, and I was just like, something seems off about that. You know, like this is the stuff that they're feeding our kids. Like, I'm like, yeah.
It's funny you should mention that, because I have a nephew now who's 16. When he was 2, he's a very precocious little boy, but when he was 2, he kept asking me to watch this cartoon with him. I guess he was wrong. Yeah, 2.5. And I don't even know if it's on anymore. Probably is. But anyway, one of the characters was the Grim Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know what you're talking about.
You know what? It was this little boy who wanted this bicycle so bad. And the Grim Reaper came and he goes, look, and this is my nephew saying this. He goes, he sold his soul to the Grim Reaper for a bicycle. Like, what? A 2-year-old talking about you sold your soul because he want, and then he ended up not liking the bicycle. All these bad things started happening to him. And I'm thinking, this is really reflective of people selling their soul into, we're talking spirituality and stuff. And I'm thinking, this was 15 years ago. I can only imagine what subliminally and overtly is being, for all of us, not even kids anymore, it's for all of us now. They're just so bold with what they're putting out there. It's just ridiculous.
Well, that's an interesting topic that could be consumerism and PTSD.
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
So, you know what? Since we're talking about kids and like we had to shave off time because of the whole technical difficulty, I want to get to some, like, I kind of want to end this on kind of talking about something that has been in my heart. And when we share the recordings, I think it might be useful for people to kind of hear your 2 cents about this. Okay. But in the face of traumatic events, lately we are seeing a lot of events where people are being killed due to terroristic attacks, in-home terrorism. That's not a laughing matter. That was me laughing off the nervousness.
Totally.
You know, school shootings, you know, things of that, church shootings, things of that nature. And as a result of that, you know, people are doing some victim blaming and some people are empathizing with the people. However, I have not seen much discussion in terms of the aftermath of all the things that are said and done with the children of these people who are losing their lives and what's going on with them, and how do people even begin to address, I'm so sorry, mommy's dead. Right. I'm so sorry, daddy's dead. And why? You know, how do we even begin to start a healing process?
Right.
For these,
I think that's a really good question. I think it's a very big question. I think that one of the first things I definitely would say is that this is about communities coming together to heal. And so that's where the religious groups get together, or grassroots organizations, or your community supports will lend their help in terms of getting people together in one place to be able to kind of debrief, which will definitely require some time. We're talking about months, maybe years, for communities to heal from mass shootings and things like that. When it comes to children, I'm hopeful that people are getting these kids help, because if not, these are the kind of things that can manifest over the next several years. And remember, trauma can sometimes be delayed. So there can be a very numbing effect now where people think, well, they're so young, they're probably not really affected by it. But that's not true. But if people don't get help, again, it could be years down the road and someone can develop a delayed reaction to trauma. And it would have been from likely the initial trauma and then subsequent events that's happened in the person's life. So I'm hopeful that the communities are coming together, that families support or organizations who are aware of the level of violence and the aftermath are coming together to give support to these children.
Yeah, because, you know, the thing is, now this is an older one, I couldn't find something that was really new, but I imagine it's probably even worse. The studies conducted in the U.S. suggest that exposure to traumatic events occur in at least 50 to 60% of the U.S. population. Wow. So, you know, that's a large number. And that was from a 6 years ago study. Yeah. So with everything that's going on right now, I imagine those stats are even higher.
Yes.
Right now. And, you know, I just think about, you know, what do we do to even begin to inform changes in policy and practice to not only work with these children who are essentially the innocent party, but also, you know, in a way that doesn't hurt them, you know, doesn't hurt them even more. And I think, you know, that's a challenge in and of itself too for the practitioner.
It is, because I think it's so big. So it's multifaceted, it's multi-layered. It's not just addressing the trauma for the victim, but it's the family, it's the community. And now we're looking at national terror and crisis. And so it's multi-layered. It's not one single. I wish that there were more forums like what we're doing. I wish they were on a larger scale. And they may be. Maybe I don't get to see them often. Yesterday, another young lady does a show, and she has a radio, and it's on Periscope, and it's called The World Around Us. And she actually interviewed a woman who has been a victim of post-traumatic stress from early childhood abuse all the way up through adulthood. And it was interesting because one of the things that you'll see on there is that she was very honest that during the interview, she suffered a trigger. Something triggered her trauma, and they had to stop the interview. So if anybody's looking for that, you can go on Periscope or on Facebook to The World Around Us, because you'll get to hear the voice of a real trauma victim and what it's like to live her life every day.
Yeah. I know. That's said this, you know, we were kind of general with this one in this case because PTSD spans so much. So I'm glad that you gave us a nice layman's term definition. We can go so much deeper with this, and I imagine that we will, but we'll get more specific. So if anybody was looking for very specific things, we were going to be kind of a little bit here and there with this, just to kind of get a general flow of the different and various topics that we could talk about under the guise of PTSD. So this was going to be a quick show. We were not going to take up too much time. So like I said, we'll kind of do our quick bios since we didn't do it, on how people can get and stay in touch with us. And then obviously we'll see you all next month. We can go deeper into some of these topics.
Sounds good. Okay, so again, my name is Dr. Angela Clack, and I'm in South Jersey, Sicklerville, New Jersey. And my website is www.clack.associates.com. You can find me on Facebook at Dr. Angela Clack, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Periscope, all under my name. So it's pretty easy to kind of locate me. And then my email, in case you have any questions and you want to ask ahead of time, is clackassociates2005@gmail.com.
Awesome. And I know you also have a group that you have been promoting.
I do. I have an online community for women of color, and it's about it's embracing wellness. So we talk about mental health, we talk about physical health, we talk about cultural diversity. We talk a little bit about everything. And mostly it's posts, articles, and information that I'm aware of that I'm sharing with women. Really, it is about to build a community of support for women of color.
Awesome. And thank you for sharing. and I shared Dr. Clack's. I hope I got the email right.
Thank you. Yes, you did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because my contacts are like, I just probably made it a little real yuck face. I shared the links in the comment section, so you can click for the group, or you can email Dr. Clack as well if you want to go further into this and talk to a licensed clinical professional such as Dr. Clack for this. As far as me, my name is Lynette Davis. I am a mental wellness blogger over at LynetteDavis.com, and I am a producer of several virtual events that center around mental wellness and just well-being in general, both as a entrepreneur and as somebody who is, I like to call us purposepreneurs.
I like that.
So,
I like that.
and you can get in touch with me over at LynetteDavis.com or over on my other site, Love Self, Love Biz, which is where you can find the information for my virtual summit, Love Yourself, Love Your Business.
Very nice.
So until the next time, everybody, take care of yourself, and we'll see you again next month.
Good night.
Good night.